Park Lodge Hotel Group is a proud sponsor of Style and Glamour by Yolanda.
Welcome to Style and Glam with Yolanda's. Today is the day of looking back on friendships of a woman that I've known for over 40 years. You know, it's never too late, ladies, to get into business on your own. A friend of mine is here, Marilyn Manning, who has been a longtime friend with me of Fashion Group. And at 80 years old, she started a brand new company. So it's never too late if you have an idea. Just think about it and this lady is so inspirational. Marilyn, thank you for coming.
My pleasure. It's nice to sit and chat with you quietly.
I know we're usually in a crowd with a lot of people in fashion. We never get a chance to say hello. Now, tell me about this. You know, you're 80 years old like me, and here you are all dressed up, ready, going out, went to the gym this morning, looking fabulous, and you have a new company. And I can't say the name of it. I'm going to let you say it.
Well, it's called Agape Chroma. And what it simply means in Greek is love color, and I always have loved color. So I felt that this was named appropriately, and also it's named in collaboration with my dad, who was Greek. And until I was mature enough to realize that that was a wonderful thing to be, I was brought up as an Irish Catholic. So this is my first foray into being a full-fledged Greek girl.
Oh, that's great. But you know, the interesting thing is, you're now a lecturer. You go out and speak and help women. You're in so many things. Tell us a little about the last one you just did. You did some speaking engagements recently.
Well, I'm reaching out to several different groups. First of all, my degree is in art, as you know, and I spent some time as a fashion director at Jordan Marsh Company. I was director of Chamberlain School of Retailing. I was president of Burdett College, and I retired from that and went on to be business development director for the city of Quincy with the Chamber of Commerce, and retired from that, and found out that I was going to do something at 80 years of age that was just for me and something I loved to do. So I kind of pulled them all together, and the Agape Chroma is a title for a program in color for the most part. I use the color program to teach professionals how their color choices are important in their branding. They're important in their packaging, they're important in the decor of their businesses, but they're also important to women and to people in general in the colors that they choose to surround themselves with. So my audience is broad, it's professionals.
It is, it's very broad.
Yeah.
But you know the interesting thing, and I want everyone to know, not only did you run all of these things as fashion director with the Chamber of Commerce, you've done so many things. You're a mother of 6 in 6 years. You had children, right? You have 6 children.
Well, I come, as you do, from a time long ago when suddenly you find you're pregnant, and it's not, go home, baby, and have your child, and come back, we'll save your job for you. It wasn't like that at all. You're pregnant? Well, go home and have a good life. And so I went home and had a good life, and while I was home having one good life, I produced another 5. And suddenly realized I had 6 children under 6, and I had to deal with it.
And you did, I mean, and yet you've always been there. I mean, it's amazing, as president of the regional director of Fashion Group for many years, you ran some of the greatest affairs. We did an affair together at MIT. Tell us about that.
I thought that was a real fun thing to do. MIT, as we all know, is so prestigious. But I've always felt, since my background is in fashion design, that building a building and building a dress have a very similar set of rules and regulations. That you start with the structure and you embellish it as you go along. And evidently MIT at that time bought Fashion Group's philosophy, and we had it during the summertime when the ice rink was empty.
Right.
And we brought in some absolutely fantastic fantastic designers. When I stopped to think of it, I never realized how important they would become, because we had Armani, and we had Ferre, and we had Versace, and Yamamoto. Yamamoto. So we really brought wonderful foray, and it was in the 70s when the Japanese designers were just coming into importance. Remember the one we did at the Children's Museum with Pat Petroselli?
That was awesome.
It was all Japanese designers, and that was just fantastic. Fashion Group did some great things.
One of the things I associate you with a lot too is helping a lot of young people. I mean, we did the awards with the young students, and you know,
which is we've reinvented that again, and it's called Launch. But remember the first time Janet Chute and I and you did it, and it was Moxie. We called it Moxie.
Called it Moxie. That's right.
Yeah, and the day events we had for young people, where we had 100 or 1,000 students in the Parker Hotel. We did a lot of wonderful, but that's why I opted for education, because and spent time at Chamberlain School of Retailing in Burdett, because that worked well with my children. I would be in school when they were in school, and I was with them when I was with them. So,
so there are ways for women out there that are watching and think, you know, but I can't because I have children. And if you really have a passion for something, like you've always had a passion for fashion, you were right there. You still took care of a beautiful family, and yet you've had a great career, and now a new career.
Well, you have to learn as you go along. I learned something from a very wonderful woman who I remember rushing home down the Southeast Expressway, probably at 95 miles an hour. Well, no, maybe 70 miles an hour. And I was going home to change to go to one of the boys' soccer games. And I happened to say something at the table at school. And she said, "That's very silly." And I said, "What do you mean it's silly?" And she said, "For you to change, your children should be happy you're there, even if you did look like a professional person." So you learn as you go all along the way. And yeah, I've been there for my kids, but it's never been a choice. My children were my first concern, and my career was my second concern. So once they were well on their way and with children of their own, I figured, time to think about me for a change.
Well, you know, I think it's so special because, you know, we were both younger in those days and helping young students. But now this new career has brought you, makes you so happy, because color makes you happy. Now, I'm a white person, as you know, but I do love color. It's just now it's become a trademark, but I do use splashes of color. I wear red scarves, which
White is your branding. White is your branding choice. And
tell me what it does to people, though. The color, what does it do?
Well, I think you can tell a person's personality by their favorite color. The color you're drawn to, and we all know color is your first reaction. If you look at a rack of clothes, if you don't like the color,
that's true.
You don't go any farther.
You don't even
want to
look
know
for
what
the
style is.
Right,
you don't
you're
want
right.
to know
You're
what the
right.
price is. So that if you like the color, you're going to go forward. So it's the color you're drawn to, and people are drawn to colors that speak to their personalities. And so I always will go through my presentation and say a little bit about the personality of a color.
Now, they talk about red being a strong color. I think even if I read about scorpions, they're supposed to like red because it gives you power or whatever.
Well, red, people that are drawn to red really have to have strong personalities. I find red people have very strong feelings about just about everything. You know, a red person doesn't like anything, they love it, and they don't dislike anything, they hate it. That they're really very strong. And in being strong, they're also opinionated, and they're very bad listeners, because red people are always ready to talk or ready to say something. And so while they're thinking about what they're going to say, they're not listening to what you're saying. So
never thought of that.
Red people are very often extroverts, that they're outgoing, and they'll tell you what they think and try terribly to convince you that they're right. Orange, on the other hand, are people that have similar passions, but they're short-lived. You know, if you're a good friend that's an orange person, they're madly in love with someone on Monday, and by Wednesday, who are you talking about? So that they have great bursts of passion, but they're not long. They vacillate terribly. And they're terrible to go to dinner with, because if I order something, or they order first, and then I order something, they'll say, "That sounds great, I think I'll have that." And then by the time they
I never thought of that.
So that they have a hard time making their mind. So therefore, you don't use orange to draw people's attention, to keep it or to retain it, because it's not the color that retains attention.
Okay.
Yellow people, however, and you mentioned yellow when we were talking, yellow people are ethereal. People that like yellow are drawn to the arts, to literature, to music, that they're lofty, their aspirations are very high. I mean, just think, would McDonald's arches look as high if they were orange?
No, you're right.
So then you get green. And green people are so fair. They vote. If you've got a green friend, your green friend makes out her checks for bills that are due on the 1st, on the 29th, because she doesn't want to be late.
You're amazing.
They vote on time. And do not ever forget a green person's birthday, especially if they've remembered yours. And make sure the gift is as large as the one they gave you, because they're constantly going to be measuring whether it is or not. Blue people.
Oh,
And
my
I
sister
always,
was a
I
blue
always
person.
like blue people because more men are blue than women. But blue-colored people, or people drawn to blue, are loyal and friendly and faithful, great friends, very dependable. And right about now, every blue person is sitting there feeling very grand, and you turn around and say to them,
regal.
and you can be very boring because you do exactly what's expected, right on clue. So that it's like your husband, if his mother bought him Munsingware, don't ever buy him Fruit of the Loom, because they used to, once a Chevy, always a Chevy. That's the blue personality. Blue-green is the only color I qualify with a multicolor.
Really?
Blue-green people are very interesting. Blue-green people are visually organized.
Okay.
They like things to look well, but they like them to be organized. A blue-green lady knows what's at the bottom of her pocketbook. She may even keep her Campbell soups alphabetically because they look better that way.
On the shelf.
In their closet, long, short, high, low, by color, because everything is visually coordinated. And I'll get to purple. Purple people are pompous. Purple people are red people that have no longer tried to convince you they're right. They don't care whether you think they're right or not. They know they are. So that they have a majesty about them that says, I'm pretty terrific. And very often, red people grow into purple people.
Really? Now
That's me.
Oh, that was you?
Because if I did things I did when I was a red person, they're throwing that over me at this point in time. So I have to kind of cool it and just know I'm right about everything.
Well, I did have a customer for many years, Sandra Panalano, and she only wanted purple. Right down to her bra and panties had to be purple. And I remember at Christmas times when I had some beautiful furs and I had gotten this beautiful purple hat, fox hat, and I called her husband and I said, if you really want to make her happy, you have to get her this. And of course he did. And she called me after Christmas and said, boy, you got to see what Larry bought me. And she was so excited because that was her color. But anytime I had purple, I would just call her and say, guess what I just got in? And she'd come down and buy it. It was like, whether it was a blouse or a dress or a hat or whatever, as long as it was purple. Now, the red hat ladies have a signature, and they're red and purple. Now, is that why they're red and purple?
Well, they're in a state of maturation. They haven't got to full purple yet.
They haven't.
No, and it's very interesting. We talked about white. Well, black and white aren't colors.
No, they're not.
White is the total refraction of light, and black is the total absorption of light. So people that choose black and white choose it for shock treatment or to not let people know what their personality is all about. You think about the kids that skulk around high school in black, that they don't want anyone to know who they are, what they are, or they're just in a state of development. So it's very interesting. Black and white used together are the strongest, most dramatic presentation. And if you're wearing black and white, you are always going to be the person that's most important. And I always say that about clothes, that you don't choose clothes for choosing clothes. You only choose clothes that are going to make you look better. And people tend to think or forget that they should be the center of their focal point.
So interesting. I mean, you were so interesting. I can see why they hire you now to go out and give these lectures. Now, tell me about lines. You were talking earlier about lines, not only color, but lines are important.
Well, that's the second presentation I've been doing, and it really is about lines. When you look at the human body, there is a formula that is adequate say there are 8 heads in the human body, and that's the standard they use to create clothes. Now, we know we're all made up of 2 people, at least most of us are made up of 2 people. And you may get your dad's arms and your mother's legs, or your...
Right.
So you're a combination. And I would have clients or customers that would say, there's something wrong with these pants. The pockets are too low. And I'll say, no, lady, your arms are too short. Because the clothes aren't wrong. You just don't fit into a standard size.
Okay.
So once they understand that, whether they're high-waisted, low-waisted, short from the knee to the thigh, short from the knee to, there's a formula. If you stood up, your elbow should hit your waist, your wrist should hit the end of your torso, and your hand should come halfway down your thigh. If they don't, you're not in proportion. So once you understand your proportion, and people are so hung up on sizes, we don't wear the size of our clothes on the back of the dress.
But they get so nervous.
Yeah, someone's not saying to you, oh, she's a size 14. No one knows what size you're wearing. The most important thing is it fits you. And I'll have customers that say, look, I get into a 10. Well, lady, your waist got into a 10, but your butt didn't fall. The pockets are gapping or the pleats are opening up. So it's not the size of what you wear, and it's not how much you weigh or how tall you are. It's how in proportion you are. So when you start to select clothes, you select clothes that readjust your proportion.
Right.
Like your hair, for instance. More older women make the mistake of cutting their hair far too short. And when I'll say to them, why do you have that very masculine haircut? And they'll say, because it's easy. That's it. Would you rather look good or easy? You have a choice, basically. So your haircut any good hairdresser has a full-length mirror, because your head is attached to your body, and the proportion of your hairstyle should be in proportion to the rest of your body. So that if you're tall and thin, you may need less hair. But if you're short and round, you don't need a lot of hair because you look like a little mushroom. Right. So you have to understand proportion and eye.
Well, it's funny because I know that I always like shoulder pads and a little wider shoulder. My shoulders are narrower, but my suits I always put because I have larger hips, so I try to balance myself.
You and Joan Crawford, by the way.
Oh, you're Joan Crawford?
That's why Adrienne developed the high shoulders of the 1940s.
To balance her hips?
Joan Crawford's hips.
Well, that's why I wear them, for that reason, because I try to look in proportion, though I'm not.
Well, that's realistically what it's all about.
Well, I think some women, as you said, it's interesting. I can go into a store and I can buy a 6, 8, 10, or 12. Depending on the cut, depending on the garment. And it doesn't bother me, but I know when I was in business, when I'd say to a customer, well, you need a 12, and they'd say, I've never been a 12. Almost stomp out of the store because I dared say she was fitting into a 12.
That's why better designers, really, they're 10s or 12s.
Yes,
and they're 8s or 10s, because the prestigious customer likes to think they're in something smaller. But and the other big mistake women will make is they've got a tiny waistline.
Right.
So they're accenting this tiny waistline, and by accenting the tiny waistline, they're maximizing their big hips or their large bosoms.
Right.
So you don't show off one part to the detriment of another part. You look at yourself as a total being.
Well, you'd be a golden gem for these department stores, because women really don't. They don't know what they're looking for, and they don't know what they should be looking for in order to make that.
Well, it's very difficult to tell women, because every woman thinks they know exactly what's right for them. The only smart people are the movie stars and important people who have someone dress them and they take their advice.
Right.
But it's very hard to tell. Even my own girls, it was very difficult when they were growing up.
You have 4 daughters now.
I had two girls. My 2 girls are the eldest, like yours, and then I had 4 boys.
Oh, you have 4 boys, 2 girls. Okay.
But I distinctly remember one party Patrice was going to when she was junior high school, and it was in the 70s when the girls without any bodies were wearing those slinky dresses that looked like nightgowns, and Patrice had decided she wanted a dress for this formal. And she had long black hair, and I said, it's the season, you have to have black velvet. Oh, Mom, that's so old. I said, it will look absolutely gorgeous on you. And she said, I said, I'm paying for it. You're wearing black velvet. And she did. 28 years later, we were going through a photo album. And she said, I hate to say this, Mom, you were right. And I said, took you 28 years to figure that out?
Well, we're never too smart.
No.
until years later. Then they tell us how.
It was very hard, and it was hard for the boys as well, because when they'd bring a young lady to the house, they'd have to remind me that I had to just look and keep my opinions to myself.
Now, do people use color to their best advantage, to their advantage when they
Not
use
unless
color?
they know it. It's like a recipe, as I said to you when we were chatting beforehand. My eye is very well trained. I could quite frankly eat cardboard if it was pretty, because my taste buds are not that sensitive. And same with music. I can't tell when something's off key or a piano needs to be tuned.
But you know
because my
fashion,
ears-
that I gotta
but
say.
Visually, I'll go to a movie and I see what everybody's wearing, and then I go back and listen to the movie. So I could tell you what someone had in the second act, because it's my eyes. And you can train yourself that way, because like there's a recipe for a good cake, there's a recipe for a good picture. And all you have to do is follow the rules and regulations.
Now, does color affect your moods all the time, or your interactions with people? I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. Warm color. If you are wearing, let's say you have two competitive teams on the ice, they're skating. If I have red jerseys, I'm going to accelerate the vengeance that the opposite team is going to come after me at, because it's very aggressive, a
Yes,
very
it is.
aggressive color.
It is
But I'm
aggressive.
wearing it, I can't see it. They're looking at it. So it's going to be to the advantage to my enemy for me to be wearing an aggressive color.
okay.
It's like if a team comes out in black jerseys, they're going to look more intimidating because they look heavier.
Yeah, that's
If
true.
they come out in white jerseys, they're going to look a lot lighter.
You're
So-
right.
But, and I always will say, God was so smart. He painted the elephants gray. If they were black, they would have looked heavier. If they were white, they would have looked bigger.
I never thought of that, but that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom telling me, like on a rainy day, oh, don't wear that beige coat, wear a yellow coat, because it's sunshine's color, and the sun's going to come out after the rain, because what happens after rain? Flowers come out and its sun comes out. So she always encouraged me to wear something bright in the rain. I still do that. I wear either yellow or white in the rain. I don't like to wear a beige coat. I find that beige is like, I just had beige on this morning, and I like beige, but I don't think on a gloomy day it would be the right thing to wear.
Well, people tend to do that all the time, not just a color. But I've had someone say, I really didn't feel like getting dressed up this morning. I didn't feel that well. And I'm saying, well, that's silly. That's the day you needed your best outfit. Why make everybody else suffer because you don't feel well? So it's really been an experience, just understanding all of this and visually putting things together. I mean, it's not just color. It's things have a
moods.
right place.
Right.
There's a balance and a proportion and a scale. And when the color and the balance, and when it all comes together, there's a sense of harmony. That when you look at yourself, you shouldn't see a necklace, you shouldn't see a dress. You should see you surrounded by things that make you look better.
That's amazing. You know, we were talking earlier how you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym first thing. And sometimes, I'm sure at 5 o'clock when the alarm goes off, do I really want to go to the gym? And then you say, well, I guess it's worth it, because
It beats the alternative. Back in my mind, I have a vision of sagging underarms and a lot of other things sagging, and I thought, I'll go to the gym because it motivates you. And it sounds so vain, I know, to a lot of people.
No, it's not vain at
but
all. It's
if
healthy.
If I feel good about myself, I'm going to treat people better. If I feel bad about myself, I'm not going to be as pleasant to be around. And it's my job to be positive.
And as far as eating habits, tell us about that. Because, a lot of women say, I'm so busy, I can't go to the gym. I'm so busy, I just grabbed a sandwich, maybe something, from fast food place or whatever. Tell me about, what do you do with that? Is it also color on a plate? I mean, I know when I serve, you always try, if you have turkey, you try to have squash because it's kind of orange, yellow, and white, and you try to put some green beans so everything looks colorful.
On a plain plate, because you don't want it
Right.
to conflict.
Exactly. So you don't have a fancy plate with all this stuff and then these colors. But I think even eating habits, do you think that that helps?
It's been a lifetime for me. I was relatively heavy as a preteen, and I learned a long time ago that I don't eat much that's white. I love pasta, but I'm very, very careful not to eat too much of it. I don't eat bread. I don't eat potatoes. And my dad was in the ice cream and candy business, so fortunately I don't have a sweet tooth. So it is, I don't eat any of those things. I eat a lot of vegetables. I can eat a whole bag of spinach without even
I could
thinking
be a
about
vegetarian very easily,
Yeah,
especially in the summertime. I mean, I think zucchinis and peppers and everything from the
You
garden.
can do such marvelous things with it.
And it's healthy for you. It really is.
It is. It's very interesting now with the second generation because I now have 17 grandchildren. And
17 grandchildren.
And most of them are young adults. They range from 30 to, I do have one at 5, but he's sort of a last tag in.
The last
But
one.
the girls that are like 20, I mean, I love going out and having a glass of wine with them or taking them to a fashion show because it's like my daughters all over again. So it's been fun sharing a lot of this kind of stuff with them as well.
Well, you know, looking back to the Jordan Marsh days, which I still talk Jordan Marsh, and some young people will say, Jordan who?
Jordan who? Evan and his little red ribbon that he started.
Right. And you were telling me earlier about Jordan Marsh and how not to be confused with Jordan's furniture.
I really think, you know, there's something about us being old that's kind of fun. Because I remember when my children were little, they opened the Enchanted Village in Jordan's. And as an executive with the company, our children were amongst the first ones to see that Enchanted Village. And how proud Mr. Mitten was of that particular Enchanted Village. And for so many years, it was right there on the top floor of the store. And then it was sent to City Hall, and then it went into storage. And what I find a chuckle to me now is now it's at Jordan Furniture. And if you remember,
full cycle
way back in the 50s, Jordan's was in Waltham, and their ad was Jordan Furniture, not to be confused with Jordan Marsh.
Wow.
And now it's come full circle. Jordan Marsh is gone, Jordan Furniture is in.
Well, this has been such a delight, you know, just talking about the days of when we worked together and enjoyed and still going strong. So now, if they want to get in touch with you, is there a website that they could reach you?
I haven't.
Not yet.
You
haven't developed a website.
I haven't got to that point yet. And though I say it's very important for people in business, but I'm not looking for a big, wonderful, super business. I'm just looking to share what I know and share what I love.
But what you know and what you have experienced, for those out there, women are going to be so pleased. I mean, there's so many speaking engagements you could be at to help these women, especially women in nursing homes and women in retirement homes.
Nursing homes are a little difficult, but I am doing a lot.
Yeah, but it does cheer them up.
Well, I'm doing a lot for senior citizens, senior centers throughout the state. I've been to several of the senior centers, and those women are still vital enough to want to be out and be a part of what's happening in their community. And I don't want to say make fun of them, but I can laugh at us and them.
We're all there.
And it's not like some young whippersnapper coming in and telling them what to do.
What they should do.
Been there, done that, still trying. So it's been really, really fun. So I love doing those. And then I love talking to professional groups who really don't realize how their color choices in their packaging and branding is going to make a big difference on how they're received. And much the same in talking with someone. I wouldn't go into a banker that had something orange on because I'd be afraid they'd forget where they put my money. So it has been a real pleasure to share this information.
For those of you that love the show and love listening to Marilyn, I know I do. I learned a lot today about color, and I learned a lot about everything.
Me?
No, you did. You taught me a lot listening to that, or why I do things. But you can get back to me at glamouryolandas.com, and I'll put you in touch. Again, I can't say the name. I tried. I'm not from Greek origin, but say it again for me.
Agape chroma.
Agape chroma.
Agape meaning love, and chroma meaning color.
Love color.
Love color.
So
sure
if you love color and you love the show, stay in touch, because I am so delighted that Marilyn joined us today, and you got a chance to really hear someone that has taught and has been there for so many young people and still doing it at 80 years old. So remember, ladies, it's never too late for you to follow your dreams and your passions. So enjoy and watch for Glamour at Yolanda's. Very soon we'll be back with more wonderful shows. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Marilyn, for coming. It's really interesting.